Cobra Kai fans, welcome back to the channel. It's been revealed an alternative ending to Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 3, as many fans believed there would be some other type of ending for Part 3, and the way they ended the show was truly phenomenal, and I really enjoyed how they wrapped up the character arc for Cobra Kai series, and I think it's so awesome to see Johnny get his final victory in the ending of episode 15, and to see the happy endings that those characters got, especially the OG. Now, co-creators of Cobra Kai, Josh Heald and Jon Hurwitz, have both confirmed an alternative ending which was very likely to happen in the final episode of the show, but instead they made it very clear on why they decided to make this change and have the ending that we saw in the final cut. Now, in a post on Instagram, Jon Hurwitz made it very clear about this moment with Terry Silver and John Kreese in episode 14, and I'm going to read the post as it's quite long but really explains everything in detail. You know the final beat of the Sweet Child of Mine montage that ends on the Sports Illustrated magazine? Well, we had the camera drift further down the newsstand to find this other magazine showing that Terry Silver's disappearance was still a mystery in the valley. We even took it a step further and had Martin Kove's hand reach in to pick up the magazine, partly for the 0.0000001% scenario. We decided we wanted to imply that Kreese was still alive, but more so just to entertain ourselves, since we always joke around about how Kreese likes to fake his own death. Once we saw what the boat explosion looked like, that minuscule chance we used the footage completely disappeared. At the end of the day, we wanted our finale to end triumphantly and with credibility, not with an absurd confirmation that somehow John Kreese survived that fiery blast. We wanted Johnny, Daniel, and the rest of the characters on our show to be living in a world where there was no more danger of Silver or Kreese suddenly popping up and messing with their lives again. We wanted happily ever after, or at least happily until a spin-off where there are fresh problems to contend with instead of the same monsters that have wreaked havoc in the Miyagi-verse for 40 years. Yes, Cobra Kai never dies, and no, we didn't show the bodies, so I suppose there's no proof that both men are dead. But for the here and now, let's live in the world where there's actually legitimate karate peacetime in the valley, because that's the story we intended, and it feels so good. I think that's very fair, and the fact that John made it clear that there's no more danger of Silver and Kreese suddenly popping up, and that's generally something that we know they could have kept doing if they never killed off Silver and Kreese definitively. But as John said, we didn't see the bodies, so there's a chance that at least one of them did survive, but they did make it very clear with how quick that blast happens and how near Kreese and Silver are to the gasoline, and when the blast happens, there's no chance they would have survived the entire boat blowing up, as we see in the wider shot. In all fairness, if the characters are definitively dead, they've had a very big send-off, and some people may have been very surprised by this. I still was, and I saw this at the premiere the day before Part 3 aired on Netflix, and it still surprised me to this day they killed the characters off like that, especially with all the ties with Korea, as I really hope they were going to have one final showdown in Korea where they learned the way of the fist from Master Kim and die more like warriors in a crazy bout. But this was a very 80s action style ending for the characters, but who knows, maybe one of them will come back alive. But Josh Heald said this, which is very important to remember. Now, on Twitter, Josh Heald replied to Evan Schlossberg, who I believe is a family relative or family member of Hayden Schlossberg, and he replied to him very clearly about what was going on with Silver and Kreese and said, "Cobra Kai spoilers ahead. Evan, I will not allow you Schlossberg trolls to continue to promote this shameful and frankly weak conspiracy theory. When we wrote Watery Grave, we meant Watery Grave, as in dead. Both. The madness stops now. Dugan might still be there though." And in the script that Josh Heald shared, it made it very clear of the dialogue when Silver says no and then Kreese says mercy. The script reads, "The fuel ignites, traveling rapidly from the puddle to the tanks, then boom, in a wide shot, the yacht explodes in a huge fireball at sea. What's left of the ship begins to sink, taking the Cobra Kai founders to a watery grave." End snake. And Josh has made it very clear that both characters are dead. And I think at the same time, it's also important to remember there's not much more they could do with both characters unless it's in the form of a spin-off when Cobra Kai first started, as I think there's a good potential story they could do with a young Kreese and Silver spin-off. We have got glimpses of young Kreese and Silver throughout this show, played by Barrett Carnahan, who plays young Kreese, and Nick Marini, who plays young Silver. And for them to continue the legacy of those characters in this form would be really cool, but also these characters are so popular with Karate Kid fans, and I think it would only make sense to explore more of those stories because there was still so much left as a mystery. But in the alternative ending, it would have been funny to see John Kreese survive that, but again, very unlikely as well. And I still think they stuck the landing with everything with the show. Method of killing off Silver and Kreese in this way was a very big way, and that might have been the only way the creators felt that would service the characters, although I think fans might still feel indifferent to it. But overall, I've enjoyed seeing these characters, and for them to conclude their stories in the show, it has been a roller coaster and very crazy. I'll talk more about that specifically in another video, but make sure to subscribe for more here on Cobra Kai Nation. We've got Karate Kid Legends coming up. I still have a lot of part 3 videos to drop and interviews, so stay tuned for those. And I appreciate you watching. Hit the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.